Hey,
Hi.
Steph, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
You're
It's Monday and
you're subdued this morning.
I'm subdued. That's not normal.
Subdued. Yeah,
I'm just I'm
even your
working.
lighting's a little subdued. Like it feels like you're not. Your saturation is low.
That's not normal for me. I'm usually so vibrant.
You.
I'm working on my. I just got off a call. I'm working on my ICF credentials for coaching, and one of the things that people don't know about us, Anthony, is what's really cool about the founders community is like we get to sort of cross-pollinate with each other and become part of each other's lives. And I don't know if our listeners know that I've been working with your wife as a coach. Did she hug you recently?
I didn't know that you were working with. No, my wife hugs me every day.
Good, because I when I was working with her, I was coaching her, and I said, you really need to learn how to embrace your mistakes.
That hurt. I'm not even going to follow that up. That was a good dad joke, and it hurt my feeling.
You only have one, so it's fine.
Yeah, you're right. Well, no, it's more delicate. You hurt my one feeling.
No.
I only have one to spare.
Right. And what's great is now you can focus on figuring out how to do repair on that one feeling. I mean, this is part of your journey, Anthony, right?
Yes. Maybe I'll delegate it. What are you actually handing off when you delegate a task? Peldi Gilizani built Balsamic to a $6 million ARR with just 30 employees by refusing to delegate tasks. He transferred ownership of results instead, and his team ran without him for months. Today, Stephanie, on How to Founder, we'll be talking about. I thought I was delegating to you. You missed your cue. We'll be talking about delegation. I am your host, Anthony Franco, and with me today is my always lovely and usually vibrant, wonderful co-host, Stephanie Hayes. And today we have Chaz Wolfe. He has built and sold multiple seven-figure companies, founded Gathering the King's Masterminds, and interviewed 400 plus entrepreneurs. We're almost to that level on his podcast. His podcast is called Driven to Win. Chaz, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
and
thanks
talking
for
about something that I really suck at. I'm terrible at delegating. So why do most founders, first of all, am I unique, or is this something that all founders struggle with? And I always do that. I delegate tasks and managing the tasks rather than delegating outcomes. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, you just asked a lot in one little sentence there. The first thing I'm going to say, which we shouldn't go in just one direction, but the little faux pas there with Stephanie a few minutes ago was because you didn't delegate, you abdicated, right? You handed something to her. She really had no clue, and then you left. You left her hanging.
I very often don't have a clue. So.
And so, but as a founder, I'm assuming your listeners can relate to this. I know I can, where we just expect people to get it and figure it out, and let me know what it's like once you've figured it out, and that's not delegation. So there's a lot we can talk about here today. So
do founders typically suck at delegation?
Yeah. And so from a profile perspective, I'm going to reference a tool that we use called the predictive index. A lot of entrepreneurs have a left of the line D on their little profile, which means that, like systems and structure and, rules, they're kind of just for everyone else. They're suggestions. It's, that trait to be organized and structured and follow through. And, it's kind of just flapping in the wind over there for a lot of entrepreneurs, not all of them. And so it's not necessarily you as a we don't want to hurt your one feeling.
Mhm.
It's a lot of founders out there that just kind of want to get things off their plate, and it's challenging because if you don't have certain systems or some sort of organization in place to follow through or help that individual, then it's probably going to land back on your desk at some point, would be my guess.
Stephanie, I know you're working through this. Is delegation something you struggle with, or is it a superpower?
Once I step into it and I decide it's going to happen, yes. But I think the big thing that I struggle with and that other founders struggle with is getting, like, I own a business that teaches virtual assistants and freelancers how to start a business. And when I talk to business owners about hiring, the biggest challenge that they have is it's so much easier, or I think it's easier for me to just do it than go through the process of handing over something and teaching them and being okay with it not being exactly how I want to do it and whatever. So there's a little bit of control. There's a little bit of like bridging the gap and investing the time to delegate, because we don't just like hand something off and then it's good, right? So we have to understand the longer term benefits of stepping into delegation. I think that that's sort of where the gap is. And I don't know, Chaz, if that sort of sounds familiar for you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think the opportunity there is that we either are control freaks or we have a hero complex where we have to be the person that solves everything. Or it's the complete opposite, where I'm just going to hand it off and not going to give any instructions and just completely, sink or swim type of scenario, and neither one work.
It's
Right,
worked for me. Both of those have worked for me brilliantly over the last year. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think there's also something too where this is an identity thing, because I think a lot of founders start out being good at something. Like, I come from the tech world, and of course there's all like the tech bro geniuses guys who then they're like, I'm going to start a business, but they're actually really crappy at like leading.
Right.
And so their identity is tied up in the doing and tied up in and that feels like I'm contributing. Yep. So when I work with founders who are stepping into more of a leadership role and who actually want to, drive their company forward, that's really uncomfortable for them, because all of a sudden they're not doing the thing that looks like it's contributing. So I don't know if you can touch on that a little bit too.
Yeah, I think that it's the same. We work with a lot of folks in, like the trades and construction, and it's the same, like they grew up doing it. And so it's challenging for them to kind of get off the tool belt, if you will, or get out of the truck. Same exact process that you're describing. Running a business is not the same as doing the thing, whatever the thing is, the widget or the service. And so we talk to our clients all the time about working on the business, not in the business. That's kind of a little bit of a catchphrase, but that's the game. That the game.
Yeah, I've heard that. And break that. What does that really mean? Break that down for us, because that is a buzzword, that you're working in the business, not on the business.
Yeah.
So what are the indicators that you're, first of all, in the business and on the business? They don't sound like, one doesn't sound worse than the other to me.
Sure.
So break down why in the business is wrong, and then how do you actually work on the business, not in it?
Yeah, in the business isn't wrong, but if you never work on it, then you're always basically reactionary. So think in is, kind of head down, like in the moment, a little bit more reactionary. Just kind of doing the thing. You might be literally doing a task that you could delegate to a team member. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just your zone of genius and you love doing that thing in your business, the actual task. Like, okay, being on a podcast is still a task. It's still something I'm doing, but it's part of a larger lever that I'm pulling for my business, as opposed to me being on a computer, working out an automation right now behind the scenes. I'm on this podcast right now, reaching however many people to talk about why it's important to have a business that works without you, so your family never has to. So I'm pulling a larger lever when I'm working on the business. Some of that, though, is you have to kind of determine the priority list of what actually moves the needle in the business, then inserts delegation, right? So I've determined I can do all these things. Great. These 3 things or these 10 things are the things that I should be doing as the founder, that they're the highest lever activities. to move the needle. And whatever move the needle means for your particular business or the season that your business is in, it might be new clients, it might be new strategic relationships, it might be, producing your next product. I don't know, but it might be sitting in a boardroom and writing on a whiteboard until your next idea forms. I don't know, but whatever moves the needle for your business. So it's kind of a couple stages there. It's determining what tasks move the needle, then delegating the ones that aren't as big of needle movers, and then focusing only on the things that the founder should be focused on.
Stephanie, so I want to hear from you on this too, because what I struggle with is, I'm going to be really, really candid here. I struggle with not knowing what the next best thing is to do sometimes. So I will just feel my way through it instead of taking that step back. And I feel like if I'm not working, I'm failing, instead of I should be thinking about it more like I need to think what the next best thing is to do first,
right,
and then decide whether or not I should be doing it. You don't have that problem, right, Steph?
Well, so a lot of the work that I do with my clients is around, creating that alignment, right? And one of the challenges they always have is, I don't know what to delegate. Well, what to delegate are the things that are not aligned with where you're going, right? So when you look at yourself, and this is going to come as a surprise to you, Anthony, but this all, again, comes back to self-awareness. So there's a little bit of like, what does the business need from you? But also, who are you and where is your most powerful work? And so I think that the delegation conversation comes from that, like knowing what the business needs from you, but also what's your most powerful work. And, what I know as myself, that I am like an architect, right? So I will go and fuddle around and I will make the solution first. And then I would like to hand that over to somebody else to operate. But I get a lot out of solving the problem and figuring out where we're going to go and then handing that off. So that might not be true for other founders as well. So knowing yourself and who you are as an individual and where you're most powerful, and also what the business needs from you, those two things I would think are how we make that delegation decision. I don't know if that sort of resonates with you, Chaz.
Chaz, how do you determine what to delegate and what to keep?
Well, I think that it comes down to the direction that you're going, kind of what Stephanie was just talking about. I called it, what moves the needle. And so if you're, this is a really easy exercise actually for your listeners to do. Just literally over the next week, write down everything that you do, everything. And I mean, everything. If you stopped and itched your nose in between calls, right? I mean, maybe not that, but you get what I'm saying. Like, don't hold back is the point. And then you just take a look at the list and you go, okay, let's circle, 5, maybe 10 things that like align with the goals that we have in place that like really move the needle, really move this ship. If these 5 things didn't happen, we would be burning down the whole ship, right? Or the ship would be burning down itself or going down, whatever. It also, another maybe lens could be like, what are the 5 things that no one else can do or has the genius to do? And picking those 5 things and then delegating the rest. Seems like a fairly simple task. It's challenging to write everything down and then to be honest about like, okay, what actually moves the needle? Because there are things that I like to do that don't move the needle, right? We can be busy being busy all day long, every day. In fact, that's why most entrepreneurs actually never grow, is because they're just busy being busy, as opposed to, again, going back to the thing, going, okay, well, up here where I can see and go, okay, well, what's the next lever or what's the next bottleneck that's going to happen, or the current bottleneck? And so once I solve that bottleneck, what's the next one going to automatically happen? And I'm like pre-solving. That's all working on.
I'm gonna push back. So I'm gonna push back on you a little bit, Chaz. So writing down what I do every day is not going to solve my problem. Because I first of all, you have to know where you're going, right? You have to have delegating stuff when you don't have a plan on where you want to be is very complicated because you're delegating things that you don't even know if they fall into a master plan. So I do think knowing where you're going to go really does matter deeply. Having goals, having aspiration really matters. Yes, I agree.
Without that, just to add to that, without that, you can't look at that list and determine what moves the needle. So yes, you're right. You have to have the goals first, the vision first.
Yeah. And so I where I struggle, and maybe you can help me with this. Where I struggle is putting where I want to be into a list of things that I need to be doing. Is that making sense? So
Oh, yeah.
so I'm like, I don't know how I know this is where I want to be, and I'm going to just take one step in that direction every day.
Right.
And so where I struggle with is seeing the whole map. I just know New York City and I'm in Denver. I want to be in New York, but I'd have no idea what the terrain looks like from here to there.
Right.
So
Yeah,
how in that scenario do I delegate?
Well, delegating you can't do quite yet. I think you have to reverse engineer in order to create a master plan. So we first have to go, okay, well, if I'm going to be in New York, what has to be true for me to be in New York? Well, I first had to go to Cincinnati, right? And in order to be in Cincinnati, what had to be true? Well, I had to stop off in Kansas City or whatever. So I have to reverse engineer the process. And I can do this with an annual goal, a 10-year dream, whatever. But in order for this to be true, what has to be true before that? In order for that to be true, what has to be true before that? In order for that to be true, what has to be true before that? And you just keep backing up until I know generally what the next step is. And then you can determine certain tasks, right? There are certain tactical sales and marketing and operation and finance tasks that you as the founder don't have to do. If you didn't do, and here's what most founders don't, if they don't have a team to delegate to, or they don't know how to delegate, they just let those things stack up until they get overwhelmed. And then they, one Saturday they pull an all-nighter and try to catch up on as many of those things as they possibly can. I know that because I used to do that. Save the inbox, if you will, or the task list over here. And so delegating just looks at, okay, let's figure out what the highest priority things in order to go to that next city that we're talking about in that example. And then the things that aren't necessarily the most important for us to be able to get there, that's the list that I go, okay, so do I have a current team member that I can hand this off to? Do I need to hire a team member? Sounds like Stephanie has a business that helps people do that. Fantastic. It's like, okay, so then now what type of team member do I need? What skill sets, what profile makes sense? Make sure that they're the right person on the bus, make sure that they're sitting in the right seat. There's a lot of nuance there around just handing someone something, but that would be the framework.
Stephanie, you've helped founders do this too. I've also found that founders, when they make a hire, they're trying to hire people that take things off their plate that they don't want to do, not necessarily the things that they should delegate, but the things that is just brain damage for them. Is that the right way to approach it?
Well, there's a little bit of both, right? And so again, it comes back to like my superpower is being able to see the whole strategic vision and then go right down to how are we going to get there? Like, what do I actually need to do? But I think the mistake that we're talking about is delegating tasks, right? In which this comes back to our original topic here, is that the mistake people make is trying to put a cheap resource in that'll just blow tasks off their then I've got pressure now as a founder to turn everything into a bunch of tasks. Whereas if I'm like, okay, I know that we need to have a marketing strategy that's going to do X, Y, and Z. So I'm just going to hire and delegate the achievement of that goal to somebody, and I don't actually care that much how we do it, right? Or I'm going to rely on somebody to have the knowledge and the expertise to be able to do it. So this isn't necessarily about creating a whole bunch of tasks and just like checking them off a list. Delegation is to partners as well. Like my partner and I have a very strong working relationship in the sense that we can both do the same work, but there's a natural sort of divide in terms of where she's really powerful, where I'm really powerful, and we've fallen into these really great roles. And so we even have that conversation this morning. I'm like, I'm getting too far over onto this side and I'm not able to do these things. So let's recalibrate. And she's like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to take on these, blah, blah, blah. So there's like peer level delegation, and then there's outcome level delegation. And I think, I very rarely get to the place where I'm delegating tasks because I don't want to, right? Like that doesn't help me. It helps
Chaz,
me
walk me through the things that I need to give somebody that I'm delegating. What does a person need that I'm delegating to?
Well, I think that they need resource. They need support. They need the vision. So sitting down with a new employee or a new team member, either as a manager, a leader, or as a founder, depending upon how big the company is or what the role is, they need to understand what are we doing here? The whole vision, right? The kind of the bigger grand play, and how their role plays into that. That's kind of its own little thing. But to delegate specifically, then it's like, okay, great. Well, here's the tactics of how you do this. Here's what success looks like. And then here are the resources to help you achieve it. Again, software, training, videos, teammate, any of those things that could be helpful in actually handing it off and helping them feel prepared. Then the last piece that I would put into place there would be some sort of tracking. So you can call that accountability. You can call that
how they're measured.
Yeah, how they're measured. I've already determined what success looks like, and then what is the performance in comparison to that?
So we're talking about outcomes, but in reality, it's outcomes mapped to how they're measured and their objectives, right?
Yeah. It's management by objective. That the old Glenn Cleary, Glenn Ross era type of MBO, it's the same kind of thing. Why would you as a founder want to be micromanaging anything? I don't want to hear about tasks. I don't want to hear about how you did it. I don't care, actually. Yeah. Unless it's something specific, like I'm doing brain surgery or something, then we have a little bit more of a conversation to be around, like, how did you do it? But unless you're in a regulated industry or something like that, just you achieve the outcome and you have that ownership. And I would argue that you get more effective teams that way anyway, because most team members are looking for ownership. So Chaz, in your, you have a kind of interesting story in the sense that you actually took on building a business in a field that you had no experience in. So that's like the flip side of what most founders end up doing. So do you want to talk a little bit about the role that delegation played in that?
Yeah. Well, the construction business here in Kansas City, we do high-end remodeling, and I'm not, you don't want me anywhere near your project. That's for sure. And so, what it started with was understanding what I needed on the team, who I needed on the team, what the team needed to look like was the what there, I guess. And so it kind of started with who, not how, versus me going and drumming up, the first job and doing a little task, a little kitchen remodel, whatever. I didn't know how to do any of that. So I actually went the reverse and was like, okay, I need to build a machine. I need to have leads that come in, someone to work the leads, someone to sell the project, and then manage the project, and then complete the project. And okay, great. So here are the pieces, and who do I know that has this certain profile that does well in this type of role and this type of role? And let me just start putting the pieces together. And so I didn't necessarily think of it as delegation. It was more so of architecting, like you said earlier, is like really this master plan and going, okay, well, here are the potential pieces, the game that I need. And so let's start filling the pieces. But I still think that can be translated to your listeners now, even if they are doing something that they grew up doing, remodeling, for example. It's still, again, that working on the business is going to be more of the like chess playing. Working in the business is going to be more of the like, okay, well, like, no, this is how I've always cut the board. And so this is exactly how it needs to be cut, which to Stephanie's point is like, well, no, there might be a better way, like, what does that actually matter? We need an end result of a beautiful blah, blah, blah. Great. Let's do that. So in my case, with remodeling specifically, I was able to leverage not only building a team, but then leveraging, subcontractors for skill sets, expertise in certain trades. And I put together relationships and a machine more than anything, I guess, which I think all businesses are actually, if we just look at it that way.
Yeah. There is an anxiety that a lot of founders have too, and I've suffered from this in the past, where you've delegated an objective and an outcome to somebody, and they're not achieving the results that you want. And so I used to go back to, is it my fault for setting the objectives incorrectly, or is it the wrong person?
Yeah.
How do you make that decision?
Stephanie said, yes, it's you.
You're the wrong.
Yeah. But I'm not going anywhere. So it doesn't even matter if I'm a wrong person or not.
Yeah.
They can't fire me, so
That's true. That's
it
true.
doesn't
Well,
even
I think
matter.
the actual answer to the question is both and, right? So first off, I take personal responsibility and ownership for putting the right person in the seat. And so let's talk about what is this seat. It's a project manager. So this person needs to be able to understand from beginning to end what we're doing, to be able to lead others and hold people accountable to timelines and to budgets. Fantastic. That individual has to have certain dynamics. They have to be able to see the vision and hold people accountable. They have to be maybe social, but maybe not too social, because if you're too friendly in that scenario, then you can't hold people to timelines. And we need them to be urgent, not necessarily methodical, because we got timelines to keep here. And so I'm going to create a profile, and I'm going to put this specific person in this role that fits this profile. Now, once I've determined that, then it's up to what Stephanie said, which is, if there's no system, if there's no supporting documents, if there's no process for them to hold on to, then the process is the problem. The people might be the problem. So if I forget the right person profile, like on the, in the right seat on the right bus, there's a provable process or a predictable process that someone else has used and had success with, and they're still having troubles. Now we're talking about this individual person. And maybe we've got some character issues. Maybe we've got some potential life stuff happening in their personal life. I don't know, but we can delegate. We can get specific about that.
But how do you get founders past? Oh, Anthony, you're frozen.
Yeah.
I'm frozen. Is it reasonable?
Frozen in this very contemplative state.
Yeah, it was very contemplative.
Yeah. How do you get founders past that fear, though? Like they're so scared of somebody not doing something right, or something being out of their control, that they don't get to the point of actually delegating. And then that's like a huge problem for the business, right? So what do we do to get them past that?
Well, to your point earlier, that's an identity piece where they've got to work on their own mindset towards solving problems, a little bit of a hero complex, maybe even why they have that. But the comparison is, how's it going so far for you, buddy? and if the answer isn't like, I'm going to pull my hair out and maybe lose my family, right? Because I know some stats there, 35% or entrepreneurs are 35% more likely to get a divorce, and 1 out of 3 entrepreneur kids are,
only 35.
Yeah, more
35% more.
Yeah, more so, not necessarily total, more so.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Anyway, all the stats of like, hey, how's it going currently? And what's the trajectory of what you're currently working with? And so the opposite end of that is, well, could you potentially have a system that, ran in your genius and gave you life as opposed to stealing everything?
Well, so I know I froze a little bit there. So sorry about that. But I did my question was related to that. Is it reasonable to delegate the creation of the process itself?
Yes. Although most founders make the mistake, in my opinion, of just thinking that there's someone out there that's going to do everything for them. And because that's just easier. Let me just find the right person. They'll do everything for me. It's like, well,
white knight syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't actually work. Now you can find someone at a super high level, basically build it top down, which is what I did with my construction company. I found an operator who knows how to build systems and process and document them. And I knew that from previous work experience, that she had the perfect little, like, this is exactly who I need in this role. And then I got this other guy who's probably a little bit better at sales and nowhere near process. And if I wanted him to build a process, probably not going to work ever. Right? Okay, great. I need these 2 people to work together. This is what you're going to do. This is what he's going to do. So yes, it can work. I did it. But the majority of my businesses / other entrepreneurs, they just think, well, I'm just going to find that perfect person. They're going to do it all for me. And that's just a trap, I think.
Well, I mean, then what are you there for?
Yeah. Actually, I asked this question just the other day. I had a guy text me. He was like, hey, I just started this business 5 months ago. I'm looking for blah, 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 blah. And I go, sounds like you are looking for somebody to come in and do everything for you. Why wouldn't they just start their own business? Because 5 months in, it's not like there's any cloud or proven anything. Like, why wouldn't they just go do their own thing? He's like, oh, that's a really good point. I'm like, yeah.
Why do they need you?
Here's another trap, is I think that people hire for technical skills, whereas especially if you're the founder doing the hiring, you're probably at a stage where what you need is sort of like a right hand that is more adept at being able to solve problems and, build their own, they have their own confidence, and they're coming in to be like, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to find it. Yes. Whereas and then they can put people in place who are like the task specific or the more specific technical skills. But I think something tells me that that's more what I need to be looking for, is somebody who can, who can have that kind of skill set. Because the last thing I want to do as a founder is micromanage or is answer all of the minutia questions, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a different hiring that you do for as a founder than as like a manager.
Yeah. Hiring that, integrator, if you will, if you're going to use EOS language, or an operations director or something like that, someone at a little bit higher level that has maybe some experience doing some of that and kind of casting some of the vision and going like Anthony said, I don't know how we get there, but that person, that profile is going to be more naturally inclined to reverse engineer. They're going to go, oh, okay, cool. Now that you told me we're going to New York, great. I don't need the rest. I'll map it out from here.
All right. So one more question, one more kind of positioning question before we get into the speed round here. What's the appropriate amount of checking in? So I've delegated a job to somebody.
Yeah.
Now, where do you go from not checking in enough to micromanagement, and how do you measure and gauge that for yourself? Yeah,
it's a good question. I think it's going to be dependent upon the person, the role. Obviously, there's nuance.
You can't say it depends. That's
I know. I'm going to give you an answer. Don't worry. It does depend. That's the actual answer, but I'm going to give you some answers there. I think that what you need to do is make sure that the person on the other end feels supported. And that doesn't mean micromanage, because micromanagement comes from fear. It comes from you as the founder going like, I don't know if I let it go, what's going to happen? And so figure out how to do that. So early on for me, the checking in for me, anxious wise, was, like with all my stores, I had 7 stores in 3 states. It was cameras and an app, and I could be anywhere in the world and I could go, okay, it's 10 a.m. I can see generally what they're working on. I didn't need to call anybody and check in. I could see kind of the flow of the day. I could look at how many orders were done, how many need to still be processed. And I would go, okay, things are working. We're good. Or if they weren't, I'd make a quick phone call. Hey, how's the morning going? Right. So for me, that was the way for me to like still be anxious about it and check in, but not micromanage. Not every day. It wasn't like I was calling every day going, did you do your job? Did you do your job? Did you do your job? I think that there is a level of support that person needs. And so in order to get that team or those teams to be able to think like that I created a daily flow process, and I trained to that daily flow process, and I made my managers make sure that it was up on the wall, and anybody knew who would kind of recognize like, oh, by 10 o'clock, we should be like here. And by noon, we should be here. And it was general support. So that's the real answer, is making sure that they have what they need in order to be successful, and as much or as little as they need. If you hire that high-level executive who's got 10 years of experience of building systems and process, they're not going to want you to check in every hour or even every day. It's going to be a leadership once a week.
I think even more important than that, though, is being on a shared understanding of what you're expecting, right? Like what does success look like, and what are you actually going to be interested in, and like what are you watching for? And if your team is fully aligned around that, they'll be empowered to make the right decisions in the day-to-day, right? So yeah, give them some guidance and give them something that they can plug themselves into. But more importantly is that they know everybody's on the same page in terms of what you're ultimately trying to achieve.
Yeah. What I really like you said, Chaz, is going back a little bit. It's okay to hire an operator that's good at delegation, as long as you can delegate the delegation to them.
Oh yeah.
As long as you're able to do that. I think that's really good. All right, we're going to jump into the speed round.
I really think that you need to give people more time to get emotionally acclimated for the speed round.
This is now the 3rd time you've interrupted the speed round on me, Steph.
Right, because I feel for our guests, and
you feel anxious.
Boom! You hit me right there with the clock. I was like,
right?
That's right? why I want them. I want our guests to be a little bit off kilter when we start the speed.
It's
do some breath work.
Trying to see if I'm ready. Okay, I like it. Let's go.
All right, hire for ownership instinct or teach it. Hire for ownership instinct or teach it.
Ooh, I'm going to get a nerdy answer on you. That's a predictive index thing. I can tell whether someone's going to have ownership. They're going to lean towards ownership based on the predictive index. So
Okay.
I'm only going to hire right of the line A, which is going to be more of an owner natural tendency for certain roles. Left of the line, which is going to be more collaborative and team playing, less of that influence for certain roles.
All right. They choose a method you've never used, accept the result anyway.
Say that again.
They choose a method you'd never use.
Okay.
Are you good with the results if the results are good, or do you want to use the method?
I'm about results.
Okay. The outcome is unclear until mid-task. Do you clarify it or let it run?
No, clarify as soon as possible. If we didn't do that up front, we gotta make sure everybody's on the same page.
So for you, Chaz, how much of your work, what percentage of your work would you say is permanently undelegated?
Undelegatable or just currently?
Undelegated, not undelegatable, but you will never delegate. What percentage of the stuff that you do, you'd never delegate?
10%? 15%? Maybe?
All right. Your best performer hates outcomes, wants tasks. Force the switch?
I don't know how they can be a top performer if the outcomes aren't their absolute driving
force. You give them a list and they just crush it.
Okay, that's a predictive index thing. That's a left of the line A. I give them a task list. They hit the punch. Right of the line A is going to be, I want to win. I want big achievements. So again, it comes down to their profile and what role I have them in.
This is great. Okay, so great conversation. Can't believe it's already 36 minutes in. Couple deep dive resources. Turn the Ship Around by David Marquette, and Multipliers: How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter by Liz Wiseman. This was actually a really great conversation. Chaz, where can our guests learn more about you?
Yeah, they can go to gatherinthekings.com. We've also got our family mastermind, which you're throwing up there, gtkfamilymastermind.com website that talks about a family mastermind or like a vacation that we do for entrepreneurs and their families in the summer. It's incredible family get together, but we bring in speakers for marriage and family and their business. And we do sessions with the kids around how to start their first business and, how to have success principles.
That's
amazing. It's totally fun. So check out gtkfamilymastermind.com.
When's the next one and where is it?
July 15th through the 21st of this year, 2026, and it'll be in Riviera, Cancun, Mexico.
Oh, that sounds okay. That doesn't. So it's a working trip, which is
7 days, 6 nights vacation, but we're gonna work in a bunch of work. It's gonna be awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take it home. We appreciate you being with us today on How to Founder. You can find us on howtofounder.com. You can follow us on all the channels on Spotify and Apple and our YouTube channel, which is growing, and we are always on LinkedIn. We appreciate you being here with us and listening live. We think you as entrepreneurs are the source of all our economic growth, and we can't wait to support you even further. So thank you, Chaz, for being with us. Thank you, Anthony, for...
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chaz. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks, guys.
Next.